The child was dying when Captain Cyril found her. No alarms. No distress beacon. Just a human settlement worker kneeling in the ash-gray soil of Tertius 9, her body curved over something too small to see from the ridge. Cyril's thermal scanner caught 2 heat signatures, one fading fast. "Patrol 7, hold position," Cyril commanded through her comm. Her 4-fingered hand moved to her sidearm, then stopped. The human woman wasn't moving like a threat. She was swaying like something breaking. Cyril descended the slope in silence. Her species, the Kethrin, had evolved from ambush predators. Silence was reflex. The settlement spread below her. 20 prefab structures, all dark. The plague had swept through here 3 days ago. The evacuation ships had left yesterday. This woman had stayed behind. Cyril's boots touched level ground 30 meters from the woman. She could see now what the human held. A child, maybe 4 cycles old by human standards. The tiny body wasn't moving. "Madam." Cyril kept her voice level, her posture non-threatening. "The quarantine is absolute. You need to leave this sector." Her hands, covered in dried blood and dirt, smoothed the child's dark hair with mechanical precision. Again. "She liked the garden," the woman whispered. "The one behind Hab 7. She said the flowers smelled like home." Cyril's translator caught the words, but the meaning beneath them was purely human. Loss. The specific gravity of it. She'd studied human psychology as part of her Royal Guard training. Earth had become a protectorate world 5 years ago, and understanding the newest species in the Galactic Assembly was mandatory. Understanding and feeling were different things. "The medical ships are gone," Cyril said carefully, "but I can arrange transport to..." It just stopped being alive. 3 hours ago, I tried everything. Everything. Her hands kept moving through the child's hair. She was so scared. Cyril's secondary heart, the one that governed threat response, was quiet. Her primary heart was not. It hammered against her sternum with a rhythm her training couldn't suppress. She'd seen death, delivered it when necessary. But this wasn't combat. "You need medical attention," Cyril tried again. "The plague, I was immune." The woman finally looked up. Her eyes were blue, a color that didn't exist on Kethra, and completely empty. "We thought Mira would be too. My genetics." But she was her father's daughter. A sound that might have been laughter. All his stubbornness, all his curiosity, all his beautiful, terrible mortality. Cyril's comm crackled. "Captain, do you need backup?" "Negative." Cyril muted the channel. She moved closer, each step deliberate. "What's your name?" "Sarah Chen, xenobotany specialist." The woman looked down at the child. "Mira, again. Irrelevant information. Nothing matters now. To where?" Chen's hands had stopped moving. They just rested now on her daughter's still chest. "There's nowhere. I can't leave her in the incinerator. She hated fire. When she was 2, there was a cooking accident and she screamed for hours. I can't..." Her voice finally cracked. "I can't burn her. Protocol said Cyril should call this in. Protocol said plague victims were medical waste, not candidates for sentiment. Protocol said a lot of things that suddenly felt like words written by people who'd never knelt in the dirt with their hearts breaking." Cyril made a decision. "There's a grove," she said quietly. 5 kilometers north. Native trees. They've adapted to this world, but they bloom with something like earth flowers, purple and gold. No one goes there. It's peaceful." "Why would you, Cyril extended her hand. "And because you're right. She shouldn't burn." Chen took the hand, stood. She cradled Mira against her chest with the kind of care that made Cyril's throat tight. In her arms, the child looked even smaller. Fragile. Gone. They walked in silence through the dead settlement. Cyril's scanner showed no other life signs. The plague had been thorough. Only Chen remained, and only because genetics had rolled differently for her than for her daughter. The grove appeared as Sarah had described it. Tertius 9 had a short orbital period. Full darkness wouldn't come for another 6 hours. The light filtering through the canopy was soft, golden. The flowers were blooming despite the season. Chen knelt again. This time, she laid Mira down gently on a bed of fallen petals. She straightened the child's clothes, a jumpsuit with cartoon stars on it, now stained and ruined. She arranged her daughter's hands across her chest. "She looks like she's sleeping," Chen whispered. She didn't. Death had a stillness that sleep never achieved. But Cyril understood the need for the lie. Chen began digging with her bare hands. Cyril activated her toolkit. The plasma torch made short work of the hard-packed soil. Together they carved out a space beneath the largest tree. Deep enough, respectful. When it was done, Chen placed Mira in the earth with movements so gentle they might have been a ceremony. She stayed kneeling for a long time, her lips moving in words Cyril couldn't hear. Then she stood. "Thank you," Chen said. "I'm sorry," Cyril replied. They filled the grave together. Neither of them noticed the small diplomatic shuttle that had landed on the ridge above, or the figure watching through high-powered optics from behind tinted viewports. Neither of them knew that Queen Visera of the Kethrin Royal House had been en route to inspect the quarantine protocols when her sensors had picked up Cyril's patrol signature in an unauthorized zone. Neither of them knew that the Queen had been watching for 17 minutes, but Visera knew. She knew exactly what she was seeing. And in the shuttle's medical bay, connected to machines that breathed for her and circulated synthetic blood through failing organs, a small human child with dark hair began to dream. 4 hours earlier, Captain Cyril had made her patrol sweep according to standard protocols. The settlement was being evacuated. The plague, a hemorrhagic virus that killed human children with 98% fatality, had been contained but not cured. Adults were largely immune. Children under 10 were not. The evacuation ships had taken everyone, or so the manifest claimed. But Cyril's thermal imaging had caught something during her final sweep, a heat signature in HAB 7, fading fast. She'd gone in against protocol, expecting to find nothing. Bodies cooled quickly. Instead, she'd found a child collapsed in what had been a garden. Mira Chen, age 4, according to the medical bracelet on her wrist. Pulse thready, breathing shallow. Bleeding from her nose and eyes. Dead within the hour by every medical metric Cyril knew. She should have left. Should have reported it. Should have followed the protocols that existed precisely to prevent what she did next. Instead, she'd picked up the child. She'd carried her to her shuttle. She'd used her personal emergency beacon, the one that bypassed all normal channels and went directly to Royal Guard Command, the one that was answered by Queen Visera herself. Status, the Queen's voice had been ice. Unauthorized rescue. Human child. Plague victim. Dying. Cyril had stood at attention even though no one could see her, the child limp in her arms, requesting immediate medical intervention. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Bring her. The Queen had ended the connection. Cyril had flown faster than regulations allowed. She'd docked with the Royal Medical Ship in orbit. She'd handed Mira to doctors who moved with the kind of precision that came from treating royalty. "Why?" one of the physicians had asked. Cyril hadn't had an answer. The Queen had been in the observation deck, watching through the glass as the medical team worked. She was tall even for a Kethron, with the ceremonial scars of the royal house marking her neck and shoulders. Her eyes were amber, the color of judgment. "You violated quarantine," Visera said without looking at Cyril. "You endangered your squad. You wasted Royal Guard resources on a civilian casualty from a protectorate world. Explain." Cyril had tried. She was alone. Too young to... Many beings die alone. Many are young. "You've seen this before." "Yes, Your Majesty." "So why this child?" Only the memory of small hands reaching for nothing as consciousness faded. Only the instinct that said wrong when her scanner showed that failing heartbeat. "'Cause it mattered," she'd finally said. The Queen had turned then, studied her. "You know we can't save her. Our medicine is compatible with human physiology, but this plague is aggressive. Even our best antivirals are projecting a 60% fatality rate. More likely higher. Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobotany specialist. She's been flagged as missing from the evacuation. I suspected. She'll be looking for her daughter. She'll be..." The Queen had paused. "Suffering." "Yes." Inside, the doctors worked. Machines breathed for the child. Fluids flowed through lines. Numbers on monitors fluctuated in ways Cyril couldn't interpret. "Go to the surface," the Queen had said. "Find the mother. If she's infected, bring her for treatment. If she's not, use your judgment." "Your Majesty?" "You've already broken protocol for this child, Captain? See it through." The Queen's voice had carried something Cyril couldn't name. "And Cyril?" "Don't tell the mother. Not yet. Not until we know." She'd found Chen kneeling in the dirt with empty arms, and she'd made a choice. She'd let the woman believe her daughter was dead. She'd helped bury an empty grave beneath blooming trees. Because what else could she do? Give false hope? Destroy a mother a second time if the treatment failed? The logic was sound. It felt like cruelty anyway. Now, standing beside that tiny grave, Sarah watched Chen place a marker made from broken playsteel and wire. The woman's hands shook as she twisted the pieces together into something that might have been a cross or a star, or just the desperate human need to mark where love had ended. "I should go," Chen said. Her voice was mechanical.
"The ships are gone."
"Find something." Cyril's comm activated. The Queen's voice, private channel, spoke 2 words. "Detain her." Cyril caught her. Human bodies were lighter than Kethryn, fragile in different ways, and eased her to the ground. Not plague. Shock. Exhaustion. The complete depletion of a body that had been fighting panic and grief for hours. "Patrol 7, I need medical evac at my coordinates," Cyril said into her comm. "Captain, the quarantine. Chen is immune. She needs treatment for exhaustion and dehydration. Route her to the Royal Medical Vessel." Silence. Then, confirmed. ETA 6 minutes. Chen's eyes fluttered. "What? What are you doing?" "Getting you help." Cyril kept her voice level. The lie of omission sat heavy in her chest. "You can't stay here. I don't want help." Chen's words slurred. "I want her back. I want my baby back." "I know." "You don't." Chen's eyes focused with effort. "You can't. Unless you've held your child while they died. Unless you've felt them go still. Unless you've dug their grave with your own hands because the alternative was watching them burn. You don't know. Her species didn't form the same parental bonds humans did. Eggs were laid communally, raised by specialists. But she'd had a sister once. A younger sister who died in a training accident at the Royal Academy. She'd been 12. Cyril had been 15. She'd never spoken about it. Never told anyone that she still sometimes woke up expecting to hear her sister's laugh, or that certain songs made her chest ache for no reason she could name. "You're right," Cyril said quietly. "I don't know. Not the way you do." "Then stop trying to save me. There's nothing left to save." The medical shuttle arrived in 4 minutes. The team moved with professional efficiency. Scan, stabilize, load. Chen didn't resist. She'd gone somewhere beyond resistance, into the gray place where nothing mattered enough to fight about. Cyril watched the shuttle lift off. Watched it arc toward orbit. Watched until it was a speck against Tertius IX's purple sky. Then she stood alone beside a grave that held only flowers and lies, and wondered what the hell she'd just done. The Royal Medical Ship Severance orbited Tertius IX like a silver knife. Inside, Queen Viserys stood in the observation room overlooking Medical Bay 3. The human child, Mira Chen, lay in a treatment pod that hummed with technology Earth wouldn't develop for another century. She was alive, barely. Kethis, the Queen's personal physician, stood beside her. His crest was half flattened in concern. "The antivirals are working, but slowly. Her immune system is fighting us as much as the plague. This is unprecedented," explained. Visera kept her eyes on the child. Mira's face was slack with sedation, her small chest rising and falling in rhythm with the respirator. Human children have remarkably aggressive immune responses compared to Kethryn juveniles. It's keeping her alive despite viral loads that should have killed her hours ago, but it's also attacking our treatment as a foreign presence. Kethis adjusted a setting on his datapad. "We're essentially fighting a war on 2 fronts, the plague and her own body's defenses. Prognosis? 40% survival at this point. Rising. Slowly. If she makes it through the next 12 hours, odds improve to 65%. And if she doesn't..." Kethis was quiet for a moment. "Then Captain Sorrel will have given Dr. Chen false hope before inevitable grief, arguably worse than the truth." "I'm aware." Visera's amber eyes tracked the numbers on the monitors. Heart rate, blood oxygen, neural activity, all dangerously low but stable. "Where is Dr. Chen now?" "Recovery Base 6. She's physically healthy, impressive immune system. But psychologically, Kethis trailed off. She believes her daughter is dead. She's exhibiting signs of acute trauma and dissociation. The staff report she's barely responsive." Visera turned from the window. "I'm going to see her." "Your Majesty, is that wise?" If the child dies, Dr. Chen will bury her daughter twice. Once in her heart, once in truth. Visera's voice carried the weight of authority that made her a queen. But until we know, she deserves to be near the possibility of hope. Even if she doesn't know it's there. Recovery Bay 6 was small, sterile, and quiet. Dr. Sarah Chen sat on the edge of a medical bed, staring at nothing. She'd been cleaned up. The blood and dirt washed away, fresh clothes provided, but it had done nothing for the emptiness in her eyes. She didn't look up when Visera entered. Dr. Chen. Visera kept her distance, her hands visible and empty. Human trauma responses were different from Kethron. Approach too quickly and you risk triggering fight or flight. I'm Queen Visera of House Cathral. This is my ship. No response. You're not a prisoner. You're free to leave whenever you choose. But I'd like you to stay. Visera moved to a chair across from the bed and sat, equal height. Non-threatening. Your work in xenobotany is impressive. Your papers on cross-species pollination mechanics have been studied by our agricultural specialists. Still nothing. Visera tried a different approach. Captain Cyril told me about the grove, about the flowers. That got a reaction. Chen's eyes moved, found Visera's face. You shouldn't have wasted resources on me. I'm contaminated. I should be in quarantine. You're immune. The plague can't touch you. Then I'm useless. Send me back to Earth. Is that what you want? Chen's laugh was broken glass. I don't want anything. Wanting requires a future. I don't have one of those anymore. Visera had dealt with grief before. Her species experienced it differently. A cooling rather than a breaking, but she'd studied human responses extensively. This woman was in the deepest part of the spiral, the place where death seemed preferable to feeling, dangerous territory. Tell me about Mira, Visera said. Why? Chen's voice sharpened. So you can write a report about human emotional responses to child mortality? Is this research? No. It's an old woman asking a mother about her daughter. Chen stared at her. Visera met the gaze without flinching. She was old by human standards, 140 years, though her species aged slowly. She'd outlived 3 mates, 2 children, and more friends than she cared to count. Grief was a language she spoke fluently, even if the accent was different. She was... Chen's voice cracked. She was everything smart. Curious, fearless. She wanted to be a xenobiologist like me. She'd collect samples of everything, rocks, plants, insects. Our hab was full of jars and boxes and poorly drawn charts of her discoveries. A pause. She was 4. She shouldn't have had to understand pandemic protocols. She shouldn't have had to die alone and scared while I couldn't do anything but watch. You stayed with her? What else could I do? The evac ships wouldn't wait. The plague was spreading. They told me to leave her. To save myself, too. Chen's hands clenched into fists. I couldn't. She was my baby. I held her until she stopped breathing. I felt her heart stop against my chest. You felt her die. Yes. The word was barely a whisper. And then? Then I found a place to bury her where she'd have flowers. Because she deserved better than the incinerator. Because I needed. Chen's voice failed completely. Tears came silently, tracking down her face without sound. Visera stood. Moved to the bed. Sat beside this broken human woman and did something that broke a dozen protocols. She put her arm around Chen's shoulders and pulled her close. Chen shattered. The sobs that tore out of her were primal. Animal sounds of pain that had no words. She pressed her face against Visera's shoulder and wept like the world was ending. Maybe for her it had. Visera held her and said nothing. Sometimes silence was the only honest response to suffering. She thought about the child. 3 decks down, fighting for life she didn't know she had. She thought about the choice she was making, to let this woman grieve for a death that might not have happened while her daughter's fate hung in balance. Was it cruel? Perhaps, but telling Chen now, while Mira's survival was still uncertain, felt crueler. Hope was a dangerous gift when it could be snatched away again. So Visera held the stranger and let her weep, and wondered if mercy always felt this much like torture. Eventually, Chen's sobs quieted to hiccups, then to shaking breaths. She pulled away, wiping her face with her hands. I'm sorry, she said automatically. Don't be. Visera stood, giving the woman space. Grief honored as grief survived. Your daughter was loved. That matters. Does it? Chen's voice was raw. She's still gone. Love didn't save her. No, but it gave her a life worth living while she had it. That's not nothing. Chen looked up at her. Why do you care? You don't know me. You didn't know Mira. We're just statistics to the assembly. Human refugees from a protectorate world that can't protect its own children from plague. Visera was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried something that sounded almost like pain. 40 years ago, my youngest daughter died in a shuttle accident. She was 17. A stupid, preventable accident caused by faulty maintenance and overconfidence. She was supposed to be at the Royal Academy. She was supposed to be safe. Chen stared. I held her funeral with all the proper protocols. I grieved with the dignity expected of royalty. I never spoke of it publicly. Visera met Chen's eyes, but I still dream about her. I still wonder who she would have become. And I still believe that every child who dies is the end of a world that could have been. The silence stretched between them, heavy with shared understanding. I'm sorry, Chen whispered. So am I. Visera moved toward the door. Rest, Dr. Chen. You're safe here, and when you're ready, we'll find you a new purpose, if you want one. In the corridor outside, Visera activated her personal comm. Kethis. Stateable. Still critical, but the trend is positive. I'm cautiously optimistic. Dizzy. Keep me informed. Every hour. Yes, Your Majesty. Visera closed the channel and stood in the empty corridor, feeling the weight of secrets and the burden of power. She was gambling with a mother's sanity and a child's life, and she wasn't entirely sure which outcome she feared more, success or failure. Both carried their own forms of devastation. She returned to the observation deck overlooking Medical Bay 3. Mira Chen slept on, unaware of the battle being fought inside her small body, unaware that her mother wept 3 decks away, unaware that a queen watched over her like a guardian against fate itself. 12 hours, Visera thought. 12 hours to know if mercy and science could win against statistics and death. She settled into the observation chair and prepared to wait. Hour 7 brought a crisis. Mira's temperature spiked to 41 Celsius. Her heart rate jumped to dangerous levels. The monitor screamed alarms that brought Kethis and his team running. Visera watched through the glass as they worked. Cooling measures, new medications, adjustments to the respirator. The controlled chaos of professionals fighting death with technology and desperation. In Recovery Bay 6, Chen slept fitfully, drugged into unconsciousness by compassionate medical staff who'd seen her deteriorating mental state. She didn't know her daughter was dying again 3 decks away. Hour 8 brought stabilization. The fever broke. Heart rate normalized. Kethis emerged from the medical bay looking exhausted. She's adapting, he said. Her immune system is finally accepting our treatment as an ally rather than an invader. This is very good. Prognosis? 70% survival? Rising every hour she stays stable. Kethis allowed himself a small smile. She's a fighter, this one. Like her mother. Visera stood. How long until we know for certain? Possibly 24? The plague is retreating, but slowly. We need to ensure there's no secondary infection or organ damage. Full recovery? Physically? Yes. These human children are remarkably resilient. Psychologically, Kethis hesitated. She may not remember the worst of it. Young children often don't, but trauma leaves marks even in the absence of memory. Visera nodded. Keep monitoring. And Kethis? No one tells Dr. Chen. Not yet. Your Majesty, she has a right. She has a right to bury her daughter if death comes. She has a right to welcome her child back if life prevails. She doesn't have a right to the torture of uncertainty while we wait. Visera's voice was steel. We carry this burden, not her. Understood? Understood? Hour 12 brought improvement. Mira's organs were responding. Her brain activity increased. The ventilator settings decreased as her lungs began working independently. Hour 15 brought the first real sign of consciousness. Mira's eyes moved beneath closed lids. She flinched at sounds. Her fingers curled and uncurled. Hour 18 brought a moment Visera would remember for the rest of her life. Mira Chen opened her eyes. They were brown, dark like earth soil, and confused. She looked at the unfamiliar ceiling, the strange machines, the alien doctor leaning over her with gentle hands, and she said in a voice rough from intubation, Mama? His expression asked the question his words couldn't. Visera activated the internal comm. Sedate her, gently. She's not ready to be awake yet. He says, Your Majesty's closed again as medication flowed through her lines. She slipped back into medicated sleep, unaware that 3 decks above her, A queen was making an impossible decision. Visera left the observation deck. She walked through corridors that were silent this deep into ship's night cycle. She stopped outside Recovery Bay 6. Chen was awake. She sat on the bed in the dark, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Visera knocked softly. "May I enter?" Chen looked up. "It's your ship." "I'm asking permission." "Then, come in." Visera entered. She sat in the same chair as before. Equal height. Non-threatening. "I can't sleep," Chen said. "Every time I close my eyes, I see her. I feel her heart stopping. She stopped. Started again. "How do you survive it? Losing a child?" "You don't," Visera said quietly. "You just continue? Some days are better than others. Some days you forget for whole hours that there's a hole in your world. And then you remember and it's like losing him again. Does it get easier? But you get stronger. You learn to carry it." Visera paused. "Dr. Chen, I need to ask you something." "What?" "If you could have her back, if by some miracle she could return to you, would you want that?" Chen's laugh was bitter. "That's a cruel question. It's a necessary one. I'd give anything. Everything. But miracles don't exist. Death is final. And asking me to imagine otherwise is just... Come with me." Visera stood. "What? Why?" "Because I'm giving you a choice. You can stay here in this room with your grief and your certainty. Or you can follow me and face something uncertain." Visera extended her hand. "But you need to choose now." Shen stared at the offered hand. "I don't understand." "You will." Visera kept her hand steady. "Trust me, please." They walked through corridors in silence. Chen didn't ask where they were going. Maybe she didn't care. Maybe she'd gone beyond caring into a place where nothing mattered enough to question. They stopped outside Medical Bay 3. "Wait here," Visera said. She entered alone. Mira was sleeping peacefully now. The monitor showed strong, steady vitals. Kethis stood nearby, checking readings. "Is she stable enough for visitors?" Visera asked. "Yes, but, Your Majesty, are you sure?" "But we're doing it anyway." Visera looked at the child. "Wake her." Gently. Slowly, carefully, he brought Mira back to consciousness. Her eyes opened.
Focused.
Found Visera's face. "Where am I?" Her voice was small, scared. "Where's my mama?" "She's close," Visera said softly. "Would you like to see her?" Mira nodded, tears already forming. "I want my mama. Please." Visera returned to the corridor. Chen stood where she'd been left, arms wrapped around herself. "Dr. Chen," Visera said carefully, "I need to prepare you for something. You're going to see something that seems impossible. I need you to stay calm." "What are you talking about?" "Your daughter didn't die." The words hung in the air like a held breath. Chen's face went white. "What? Captain Cyril found her before you did. She was dying, but not dead. We've been treating her for 19 hours. She's going to survive."
Visera caught her arm.
This is cruel," Chen whispered. "Don't do this to me. Don't make me hope when there's no..." Save gripped her shoulders. "Listen. She's awake. She's asking for you. She's in that room right now, scared and confused and calling for her mama. No, I felt her die. I felt her heart stop."
You felt her heart failing.
"There's a difference." Visera turned Chen toward the medical bay window. "Look." Through the glass, visible on the monitors and in the bed, a small figure moved. Dark hair. Alive. Chen made a sound that had no name. Her knees gave out. Visera held her up. "Mira," Chen breathed. That's my Mira." "Yes." I put her in the ground. I said goodbye. "You buried an empty grave beneath flowers," Visera said gently. "We'll fill it in, or leave it as a memorial to grief survived. Your choice." Chen was shaking. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me think?" "Because giving you hope only to destroy it again felt crueler than letting you grieve once." Visera released her. I made a choice. Maybe the wrong one. Maybe I should have told you immediately. But I did what I thought would cause the least harm. Chen pressed her hands against the glass. Inside, Mira was crying softly, looking around at all the unfamiliar faces. "Can I?" Chen's voice broke. "Can I see her? Can I hold her?" "Yes." Visera opened the door, but slowly. She's been through trauma. She needs gentleness. Jen entered the medical bay like she was walking through a dream, or a nightmare, or something that existed in the space between impossible and real. Mira saw her. Her whole face transformed. "Mama," the word was a sob and a song. "Mama, I was so scared." She gathered her daughter into her arms with infinite care, mindful of the tubes and wires, and held her like she'd never let go again. "I'm here, baby. I'm here. You're safe. You're safe." Chen pressed her face into Mira's hair and wept. "I thought I lost you. I thought you were gone." "I was sick," Mira said against her mother's shoulder. "Really, really sick, but the tall lady with the spots made me better." She pulled back to look at Chen's face. "Why are you crying?" "Because I'm happy," Chen managed. "'Cause I love you so much." "I love you too, Mama." Mira yawned. "I'm sleepy." "I'll be right here. Promise?" "Promise?" Within seconds, Mira was asleep again, this time peaceful and pain-free. Chen held her and cried silently, her body shaking with the force of emotions that had nowhere to go but out. Visera watched from the doorway. Kethis stood beside her. "You gave her back her daughter," he said quietly. "That was a gift beyond measure. I gave her uncertainty and then resolution. I'm not sure which parts were gift and which were cruelty." Visera turned away from the scene. "But it's done. The child lives. The mother survives. We'll call that success and hope we chose correctly." "Do you think we did?" Visera was quiet for a long moment. "Ask me again in a year. Or 10. Or when Mira Chen is grown and making her own choices about whether the pain of almost death was worth the life that followed." She started walking. "For now, we've done what we could. That has to be enough." Behind her, through the observation glass, Sarah Chen held her daughter and rocked slowly back and forth. The monitors beeped their steady rhythms. The ship hummed through space. And somewhere in the math of mercy and medicine, a family had been rebuilt from the ashes of goodbye. It wasn't a miracle. Just technology, timing, and the stubborn refusal of one royal guard to follow protocol when her heart said otherwise. Sometimes that was all it took to change everything.